Welcome to MindShifters Radio. Today is Monday, January the 5th, 2026. And we welcome you to the show. And welcome, Michael. Oh, there you are.
Thank you, dear heart. I had to get my headset all plugged in. So welcome, everybody. Honored, delighted that you're here. That we have this new year in which to continue a conversation that acknowledges our opportunities to learn forgiveness, engages in the process and the use of the tools, and keeps upgrading the state of our physiology. You know, when you think of physiology as an instrument, if it's filled with all kinds of trash, then, you know, like a trashed house, it's pretty raunchy. But when you start to clean it out and clean it up, it functions in a whole different way. And so we're looking to understand in particular the core teaching of the first century Aramaic idea of forgiveness and the technology that was understood in that language, the technology of the mind in particular that was understood by the man named Yeshua. On Friday, we were talking about one of the statements that he made, and you know, it's such a profound piece of information, and nothing exists in the English language that matches what that information gives us. And before we step into that, I'd like to just open the floor and say hello to everybody. Welcome, Terry and Susan and Andrea. We're honored and delighted that you're here. We had an awesome facilitated codependence to interdependence session yesterday after going through the holidays. Susan, that was fabulous. Thank you. And I look forward to Sunday for anybody that's done the codependence to interdependence intensive
Wednesday.
Or the self-study, or pardon me, Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And then again on Sunday, we'll be stepping in. We've completed the Power Person worksheet, so now we're going to step into a review. Susan's going to do a review of that. Well, Susan, maybe you can tell us what your plan is.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I just
Hey, welcome.
I didn't sleep well last night. So yeah, no, I want to do a review for sure of the Power Person because we went through a lot in the worksheet, and then also it just feels so important to lock all of this into physiology. That's what I did on Sunday. Really wanted to be there, and then if we're feeling it, it belongs to us to really get that dialed in for ourselves. And then just doing on Wednesday, I'll definitely be doing a review. Right from, you know, what do you say around the Power Person dynamic, what happens under stress, and then the relationship substitution that happens. Because I know when we did the workbook review, we could see, I mean, it's clear, so clear having done the workbook and then also being in the felt experience when I go under stress, how I actually, depending on the level of stress I'm in, I take on my exact Power Person dynamics. So yeah, it's really clear. So that's what I'll be doing on Wednesday, and we'll see. I'm gonna also start the review. We'll see how far we get based on, you know, and I'm really stepping into now being in the field when we come together. And you know, yes, we're setting. You know, there's the container, but there's information that wants to be revealed in the field, which we saw yesterday with Cammie's exchange. And then also with Carrie's exchange, it was very clear there were some key components that to be brought into the field. So I just also trusting that. Yeah. So.
Fabulous. And then we go into communication. Did you hear what I think I said? Responsibility communication. So I'm excited about getting into that piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's a huge
once again.
Well. That's a huge, and how to do it. That's really coming clear. You know, you got two people. Yeah, I know you heard what I said, but did you understand what I meant?
Yeah. Or we could take it even notice it. Did I understand what I meant?
Yeah, that's even more so. Because if you don't know yourself, if really know thyself, if you don't know yourself, what you're communicating is coming from half truths to the non-being mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's getting clear. And then also with everybody being a mirror, this is coming so clear that I'm meeting myself through the presence of the other. And it's just only my subconscious that I'm meeting, or my unconscious mind that I'm meeting often. And especially when I'm in a trigger moment with somebody, or my new term is flooding. I love that. I like that word better than trigger. But being my nervous system gets flooded. And when I'm in that state, I can see now it's actually my non-being mind of the unconscious that's playing out through the other. And so when I can just keep love conscious, active and present, and sometimes I'm doing what I call whole brain posture, where I put my hands together like that, my palms and my feet crossed, and I just say under my breath, I'm innocent, you're innocent, because I want to bring it back to the 0 point field. But I'm not resourced enough to engage in conversation. So my nervous system can come back to be regulated, and I just clear the field before I do anything. So sometimes
That's definitely the place to breathe.
Yeah, and to breathe, exactly. So yeah, breath is really coming in strong. So yeah.
And you triggered a thought with what you were saying, subconscious, unconscious, and it's a really key piece in the puzzle, I think. If we go back, we hear the ancient Aramaic statement saying, the veil of the temple must be rent in twain. And my offering in that regard is that the temple, of course, is this body-mind unit, and the veil is the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious mind. And we've got to take that thing out, because we're not designed to have an unconscious mind. Go back to the ancient scriptures, and they talked about the heart. Take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. That was their code word for the unconscious. And the difference between conscious and subconscious, if I say, don't think about the color of your car, what happens? Brain cells fire. That's subconscious information. You become aware of the color of your car. If I say, what's the front door of your house look like? You get a picture of it. That's in your subconscious. If I said, what's the core issue in your life that keeps you from being eternal? Watch, virtually everybody holds their breath, shuts down that veil, and locks away that information, which should be subconscious information. We should be able to access it instead of holding the breath and locking it away and hiding it from ourselves and creating this unnatural unconscious. So to me, one of the objectives of the work is to eradicate totally the unconscious mind. We listen to psychologists today, they say 80, 90, 95, perhaps as much as 98% of our thinking is unconscious. It's like, how far have we come if even 10% of our quote-unquote thinking of cycling information is unconscious? How far are we away from our natural condition? So to me, it's like taking this veil, this barrier that we built, and, dropping it till it's down to the toes, the data, that it literally disappears, and we have access in the same way that I can access what the front door of my house looks like. I can access this memory, or that memory, rather than having anything hidden from myself, and recognizing that as long as I refuse to deal with something, as long as I hide something from myself, then that's what grabs my creative power. Again, take care of the heart, take care of the unconscious, because what we've put the energy into hiding from ourselves is the energetic impetus that brings us the next experience. So thanks for bringing that up. I think that's a really important point to recognize, that we want to ultimately function totally and completely free of any unconscious dynamic at all.
Yeah, and so help me understand, because I thought the subconscious, this is how it was relayed to me, and picking the card, but I thought it was subconscious in layers. We're in the conscious mind, being an awareness of what's happening, right? We're aware this is going on. Then the subconscious, I thought it was related more to this life that's held in that database. And then when we go underneath the energetic patternings into the unconscious, those are over soul lifetimes. And family system, we're coming into a physiology of a family system where these energetic patterns of the non-being mind are stored. Is that
my offering in that context would be that if we had no denial, then all of that information, we come into a body-mind unit with its generational patterns, would be available to us rather than hidden.
Yeah. So
Rather than, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to
Yeah.
feel that. My family's never wanted to feel that. We never deal with those things in our family.
Yeah.
Rather than that, it's like, oh, there's something in my unconscious that I need to look at, feel, deal with. And of course, life keeps coming along and resonating it for us. And what most people do, because they don't have the technology from the first century Aramaic Yeshua of the mind, what most people do is they take what's in their unconscious, they build pictures, they project that content into the brain's image of someone else, and they think that that picture in their mind is that person out there, and they think they're talking to them. But there's the whole power person dynamic is, if I'm in some form of pain or upset, my breath is not functioning fully, there is an unconscious dynamic going on in me. The picture in my mind is nothing but a reflection of what's in my mind. I'm not talking to them at all. I'm not saying a word to or about them. What I have to say might, in some cases, be accurate about them. Like, even a stop clock is right twice a day. It might be accurate, but being accurate about them doesn't mean that it's not true about me. Yeah. And so if we look at that Harvard research, they've got somebody in a lab, they're measuring brain cells. This is research that goes way back in the 50s at Harvard. And they're measuring brain cells. They've literally got people hooked up to electrodes. And in a time frame they identified as about a 25th of a second, they could measure 10,000 brain cells firing. Now, my offering would be that 10,000 brain cells firing would be subconscious and unconscious information. In that same time frame, what they established was that the data that was available consciously, that we could consciously be aware of, the screen of awareness, was 7 plus or minus 2 bits of data. So as few as 5, as many as 9 bits of data. So there's the conscious. We've got, it's like the TV screen. Here's where information shows up on the conscious screen. Now that information can come from the subconscious, i.e. I can access, whatever's, gee, where are my car keys? That's subconscious information. The only reason that I don't know what the core issue is that I really need to work through in order to heal this, that, or the next thing, is because when that starts to move, I shut my breath down. It might be 20 generations old. My offering is, it's just supposed, in our natural design, it would just be subconscious information. But because when it started to come up, we said, no, I don't want to feel, let me shut that down. Now we've got an unconscious, and then my take is the unconscious is totally and completely unnatural.
Yeah.
Say again?
I agree with you 100%. It's unnatural. It's not meant to be there.
And so we've built this veil that shut us off from so much of what's going on. And again, as you spoke about in the session yesterday in the facilitated codependence, the whole process is physiological. And when I shut it off, that which I don't want to deal with, that's which I don't want to feel, I store somewhere within a cell. I've created a disturbance in that cell. And I look at the cell, and if I stay in denial, that cell is screaming out with whatever its disturbance is, literally sending an energetic influence into the world, saying to all the world, I have this in me. Is there anybody that can resonate it for me to show it to me so I can heal it? And, somebody's going to show up. So somebody shows up and does the behavior that resonates that, which I'm begging to have shown to me. But if I stay in denial and dissociation, when their behavior resonates that in me, I look at them and go, look what you did to me. And I stay in that dissociated state with that content, which means now I take that very content I've dissociated from and I build my brain's image of them. A projection of the power person dynamic. And they show up in my mind with my problem attached, and I'm sure it must be their problem. If I'm willing to enter into, and Friday we were talking about the law of Moses, where the difference in interpretation from the unconscious or the hostility and fear-based mind to a fully conscious mind. And so Moses gives us this directive that says, I'm going to repeat from Friday, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And people whose minds function based in hostility or fear go, oh, see, Moses said I could take out your eye because you took out mine. Moses okayed vengeance. And that's the interpretation that comes from a dissociated mind. The same piece of information to a mind connected to being, where there is no veil in the temple, where there's a connection to being. Here's Moses saying an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and realizes that Moses is saying, look, guys, you've got so much hostility and fear you've not resolved, but if your brother comes along and knocks your tooth out, the most you can do is take his tooth out. You can't go, and if you look back, there's stories where, over a slight or maybe a not so slight offense, these people would go and literally wipe out a whole village of people. They would use the excuse that God told them to do it, and they would kill every man, woman, child, and even the animals. And they'd say, see now, there's, and what Moses was speaking to that mind, saying, stop, you can't do that. Okay, if they took your tooth out, you can go knock your tooth out, but he put a limit on it. And Yeshua, shows us how to create a mind that functions above that state of hostility and fear. And that is, when they ask him what's most important in the law, he says, you got to have this filter active in your mind. You've got to have this gateway open called Rachma, so that your human life, love, floods your physiology.
Yeah, that was
and
really
makes
cool.
available a mind other than this projecting mind, this carbon-based memory mind of the past.
Mm-hmm. When we were in the meditation yesterday, following it was clear, because when I acted, felt I could actually visually see it in my mind's eye, the connection going between Rachma and Kuba, and I could actually feel an energetic resonance going out as in a different frequency. And it's so interesting because my subtle awareness is really getting to a place of following the energy, of whether the energy is vibrating in a frequency of love or in the being mind, or whether it's vibrating in coherence in the non-being. And then when those arise, even if I'm, if someone's having a conversation and I'm just in the room, I can experience that. And then just being present. And then what we were saying yesterday on the being called to action versus being need to act, but going inwards, connecting with Rachma into the current, and say, what is mine to do? Asking for direction from the call, and then acting that way. And it's interesting because, okay, so for me now, based on what you just said, so the conscious mind, the 7 bits plus or minus 2, that's what is within a 25th of a second. There's 10,000 brain cells firing. And so the conscious mind can only perceive in that lens 7 plus or minus 2, but we say 9, right, typically.
Right.
And so the subconscious is data that's readily available. We can
call it up anytime.
Anytime.
Exactly.
It's readily available to us, and so anytime we have went across into the desert, what they talk about in the Bible, and we push it into denial or dissociation, that then rests in the unconscious mind, which often it's too much for the psyche to bear. And when the original event happened, the psyche could not process it, so it shoves it underground and into
the mind wasn't fueled properly.
Yeah.
If the traumatic event happens, and the mind is fueled by Rachma, it's fueled by love as it's designed to be, it can handle anything.
Yeah.
But when the mind is fueled from hostility and fear, attracts or resonates in an experience based in that hostility or fear, that's when the trauma type things happen, that the mind just blanks out. I just can't deal with this. It's
too much. And it's interesting because Dr. Gabor Mate, a Canadian physician who's made it his life's work, but dealing a lot with trauma, and he has often said, it's not so much that people have trauma, because we all have trauma, and also everybody has a different sensitivity. Someone looking at somebody in who has a very sensitive spirit or a sensitive soul, they may have a bigger response than someone that was what I call being a dandelion, that you could plant them anywhere. And an orchid you have to take care of, and making sure that the environment's conducive. And he said, if someone has trauma, but they're collected through the trauma and allowed to process it, in someone being a safe witness when that happened, then that's fine.
If Rockma is available.
Yeah. And when it doesn't get processed, like you're saying, when Rockma is not available, or Ruka is not present in the breath, and it doesn't get processed, then it circulates around the nervous system and it never goes into the filing. And it just, then it goes unconscious, but it's still present because that energy is still there. It's still tethered to the trauma or the pain in the non-being mind. Yeah. Yeah, stuff is coming really clear now. I'm very excited. Really.
And so to eradicate, to one, keep the mind connected to love. And what is it that does that? We were given that at our first breath.
Yeah.
That's what delivers the presence of love into physiology and fuels our mind with what it's designed for.
Mm-hmm.
And when we allow ourselves to lock out the breath, deny the ruka the breath, then we're locked out of a mind fueled by love, and that's when it goes into crazy time.
Yeah, and I think I said to people, like Christmas time, when I had the event and I left the house and I'm going home, the non-being mind, part of me, the false self, I was up against cognitive dissonance in that moment. Like, and I for all of us that have that, when we do that, it's very difficult, because there's the false self, and you're flooded. The entire nervous system is completely flooded, wanting to do the same pattern it's always done. And then you're going to do a pattern interrupt to be different. And my entire nervous system was completely taxed. But thankfully, I held Rockma open and had also the intention of Kuba. And I went in connected to the current of Ruka and sat outside, cursed like a trucker outside, and then went back in. I decided to make a different choice. I'm so glad I did, because after that, lots opened up. But my point being, it is extremely...
You opened up.
Yeah.
Put some responsibility where it belongs there. You opened a space.
Yes.
And the space opened when you were able to do it.
Yes, that was it.
That's powerful.
Yeah. It really, and I want everybody to know what happened with that, because I did that. I made that one move, and I really get, like, we're always being tested and initiated into our next evolution. And as you said, we're resonating people to come in to help us come back to our wholeness. And in that moment, by making that choice to upgrade, I'm going to call that top level, then I got a whole bunch of revelations. When I went and did the worksheets and meditation and went into breath work, a whole bunch of revelations from my father's lineage, like generations back, that got to collapse this energetic pattern of not belonging, not being invited, not feeling that they belong, not being invited, and different things. I could actually feel it collapsing, that whole energetic, whatever that one particular energetic thread was. So yeah, it's so powerful.
Definitely. Definitely. And you mentioned Gabor Mate, and he's doing some really powerful work addressing some global issues of trauma. There was a video that we watched not too long ago that it's an opportunity to breathe, but he speaks very passionately from a space of being a Holocaust survivor as a child, that his mother, gave him away in order to save his life. And then he's confronting some of the things going on in Gaza as a Jewish man, and saying, we need to, we're just playing out the trauma of the generations. And so there are several videos, if that topic is of interest. I know that it touched me deeply when I watched some of the work that he's doing in that regard and bringing healing to that whole atrocity. So
I know, you know what? And he, So I don't, like he even says he doesn't know if he would have got there on his own. He did a lot of work with, I know him in the circle, in the ayahuasca circles. He did a lot of plant medicine,
Hmm.
lots of plant medicine to break open the veil. Yeah, lots. And he talked a lot about that. And yeah,
So
it's,
if anybody's interested,
yeah.
it's Gabor, second word Mate. He's a medical doctor, and his specialty is working with trauma. He's doing some powerful work. He's a Canadian man.
And same last night, I talked to people about another fellow when I brought up the attachment summary. That's Dr. Gordon Neufeld, and him and Gabor Mate wrote a book together called How to Hold On to Your Children. And it's all about, divine love and being present. They use the word attachment, but it's, that they work together. They're both Canadian. And Dr. Neufeld, also the foundation of how to hold love, active, conscious, and present with children.
Yay, let's be human.
Yeah.
Brahma, first order business.
I would say I don't know about
eradicates the unconscious.
Yeah. I don't know about Gabor Mate. I think he believes Gordon Neufeld. If I was going to say, his work is amazing, and I have another teacher who has brought in the consciousness and more about the Course in Miracles and God with his work. But yeah, he seems to hold more just the scientific. I feel for him. I would love to see him connecting God and Rachma and Ruka to that. But in his work, he doesn't. That's not included yet. But maybe that will come one day.
We'll hold the
Students
space.
bring it forward. Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
So how is everybody doing? Sally, welcome. Glad you're here. Are you still in Sweden?
I think he's in Finland.
Or pardon me, Finland.
And he said he wanted to talk the other day, but then he lost signals. So if you can talk to us, we'd love to hear from you, Sally.
And all you have to do that is hit that mute button. Or if you're on a phone, I think it's *6 will unmute you if you're available and have anything to share. And the mute button's still muted, so we'll assume that he does not. Anyone else? We're in the new year.
Hi.
Oh, Sally, welcome.
Oh, thanks. So
Delight to hear your voice.
Yes, it's good to be talking to you. I'm in the bath with my 2-year-old, so we're listening in the middle, but I'd be happy to talk to you guys one of these days. I'm trying to participate more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to it. Enjoy your bath. It sounds like fun. We've got our grandson here. He's 17 months, so that 2 years of circling the sun is a pretty exciting time to be with those little ones. So joining you in the joy and aliveness of that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We'll talk later.
Cool.
And we'll be listening.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Michael, Jeannie?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, way off the subject. I'm noticing that in the New York Times, there's no mention of this, but they're talking a lot about this mass in space called Atlas.
Right.
Have you been reading about that?
I have not. I
Okay.
became aware of it in the periphery, but it's not something I've pursued.
Okay.
Well, they're thinking it's something that might be heading in our direction. Is that what I've gained?
Well, it's
garnered about it?
John Brighton on my MindShifter website sent us a link. A Chinese or Japanese scientist was saying that it appears to be a communicating device. It's defying all the laws of physics that scientists have been working with, going in opposite directions, having a tail going toward the sun instead of away, indestructible as it approaches the sun, and so forth like that. But it's sending messages. And one of the messages AI translated to be something like, I remember you. Well, so there's a lot of talk about how this might be an intelligence in the universe that is somehow advanced enough to be able to reach across eons of time and space to contact Earth and other possible receptive civilizations. There's that. And then there's the other side. I went on Google and asked about it, and it said, oh no, this is not anything alien. This is just a huge mass that everybody's looking at because it's acting weird. It's not aligning with the laws of physics that we've understood so far, but it doesn't appear to have any intelligence about it. I'm not going to go into this because you know even less than my teeny amount, but it isn't being mentioned in mainstream media. It is being mentioned a lot on podcasts and stuff. So that leads to another set of questions, which is, what is happening with information? Some information is coming through one way, and we don't have any way of knowing if it's true. And some information is coming in or not coming in other ways. Even my husband now, Tim, is saying, gosh, I'm really amazed that certain things that are happening in the state courts and the federal courts with Trump are not being mentioned in the paper. What's going on? I'm tempted to stop the newspaper because I don't think it's, I think it's being influenced unnecessarily by powers that want power and money and so forth. Anyway,
Yes,
I know this
I
is
hear you.
not the purpose of the radio show exactly, except,
It's us humans. I think it is.
well, I'm doing a lot of breathing these days because we are being faced with more unknown than at least I have allowed into my brain matter. I've been happily going around on the planet, not remembering that we are a speck of dust in a massive universe. Now we're being made conscious of that, and I'm finding the need to do wake-up sheets because of fear, and not even regular fear. It's like visceral, like I'm being disintegrated by this new information. And I think of my grandkids who haven't had their 81 years the way I have to live out a life. And of course, I have a lot of value connected with the privilege of being able to get this old and so forth. So I just wondered if you'd heard about it and if you have a take on it and whether you want to address it at all.
Well, seeing as how I don't have the brain cells other than just a very periphery, heard it was there but have done nothing with it, I really don't have much to share. It would be interesting if an intelligence that has the wherewithal to support us truly stepping into human life, I think it'd be pretty awesome. But I don't know. It's not an arena that I've looked into.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to mute myself. Next.
And I would offer that perhaps the part of you that's feeling annihilated is the part that needs to be forgiven and let loose of, so that a bigger you, a bigger intelligence can come into your physiology and into your expression in the world.
Mm.
And that, if you go back to Yeshua 2,000 years ago, he says, in order for you to live, and I would use that word as to fully incarnate as the active presence of breath and love, you have to die.
Mm.
That is, that what is occupying the space, the hostility and fear-based self, has to go. And
Right.
so I would
agree
trust
with
the
you.
process and let it go, and count on your experience that back in the day when you had a lot more hostility and fear going on, life was a certain way, and today it's improved significantly. So, let the process continue.
I agree with
joining
that.
you and
Yeah.
letting go of that fear-based self, the capacity for it, and all of the inclinations that come from that fear-based self that want to have us behaving in a certain way. It was interesting. I just came across a piece of writing that Jeannie had sent me way back when we first met, and it was from a preacher type, and he was describing a dream that he had. And of course, being a preacher type, it was filled with demons and horrific creatures and all of that. But each of the descriptions that he gave, I just happened to come across this morning and was reading through it, and you know, well, reminding Jeannie when she'd sent it to me, and all of his demons in this dream that he had, that he describes, are fear, people using fear and rage and guilt and accusation and falsity and all of that. And it was like this decades ago, this gentleman wrote this, had this dream, described it, and it's pretty much what's happening in the political arena today. I mean, I was amazed as I read through it. It's like, so maybe we need an outside intelligence to come in and give us a boost in our ability to rid ourselves of the inclinations of the hostility and fear-based mind, the desire to attack, the desire to blame. Maybe we need a new level of support. So if that's what's heading this way, I'd certainly welcome it and trust it.
Well, it would seem that if it's intelligent enough to reach us, then it would have to be, in my mind, intelligent in the way of love being the bottom line connector. And so I assume that if it is intelligent, it is not dangerous. I have assuming that just because a good brain would take us there, it seems to me.
Right.
And I must add that having Tim Hayes withdraw association with your show and taking your tools under his own flag, all of that has shaken me up quite a lot. And because I guess just because I came in on the show when I was in pretty bad shape, and then the COVID came about and we were isolated anyway, and then to have your show and Tim's, you shared it. You shared the hour at first, and that was a
Right.
tremendous oasis. And then Tim set up his own show and approaches the tools, brings them all forward, but also brings in other people who have found their way too, and not in a contradictory way. That was wonderful. Getting 2 hours in the middle of the day when the day for Tim Bingham and me starts very, very early. It's like the
Right.
Mexican siesta time. I get to lie down, listen and learn and grow and have friends right in my house, right in my heart. And now this has been disrupted. Now Tim is continuing in a less daily way, 3 days a week. And it's funny how much flying below the radar of my understanding why this incredible sense of, wow, things are going too fast. Things are changing too fast. And yet,
Breathing with you.
Yeah, I think about, the time I have with my children. They are not my children. Were lent to me for a period of time. This is more and more obvious.
Right.
But the love for them is huge. So learning how to put everything in some kind of a manageable order, well, it just isn't possible right now. I'm just watching and breathing pretty much. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just going, wow,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I join you in breathing and knowing that the direct access to the intelligent creator is in our breath, and that any conflicting energies within us, if we'll trust that movement of the breath, those conflicting energies will be resolved. The veil of the temple will be opened, which means things are going to be revealed. We've all got some pretty crazy history. I mean, you just look at the written history of the planet. Pretty bizarre. And so I join you in trusting the breath and recognizing that if anything comes up in any of us that blocks out Rakma, that we do the work it takes to be restored. And remember, one of the wonderful pieces of the puzzle that Tim brought in several years ago was the gentleman who did the book, The Gentle Art of Blessing. And so joining you in the gentle art of blessing what comes forward, and recognizing that when one isn't capable of blessing, when one is in some sort of hostility or fear or blame mode, that when something resonates in us in response to that, it's our opportunity. So joining you in taking those opportunities to continue to allow love to restore the truth, and Ruka to move in us, the breath to move in us fully, so that we experience our true human lives as we're designed to, as human beings. And I wonder if anyone else has anything to share along that line of inquiry.
Yeah, I'll share. Just as you know, with Tim deciding to resign, I got, I think 3 people called me that are in this group. There's the recognition that there is an impact to the family. That's my language, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. That's the same. And I believe, I've landed home to my soul family, and I've only been in this group for a short time in human years, lifetimes in spiritual years. And, Dr. Tim is a part of that family to me. And, just deeply grateful for the short time that I know him and what he's brought. And so there's a rupture. There's a rupture in which we've all experienced in our families, but also in this space. And what you said, Michael, each of us, I think, have to look within of what that has brought up for each of us. Is a replication of the past, someone leaving, maybe divorce in the family, all of those things. And even Susan, what you said about, reading about Atlas and what you're seeing in the news, that they might be painting a narrative and you're not getting the whole picture, and all those things and what that's bringing up within you. What a gift. What a gift to go, everything is meeting us at our own consciousness, and an opportunity to bring us back to the truth. And what I know, and I'm holding this because, it does feel like a loss. Because Dr. Tim added a lot of, in my interaction, so much value. And, I don't know what he's going to do, but I will definitely, whatever he goes on to do, I will definitely engage, because I've found so much value through his perspective. And it helped open my own perspective. And I also, what you said, Michael, believe in Ruka and Rakma and Kuba, holding those open, because what's hidden under the veil, this is happening for it to come to be revealed and the truth can come forward. And so living in the present as it is, I trust, and I'm doing my, the work that's brought up for me. And that's what I said to the people that called me to, I said, call Michael directly. And if there's stuff that's flooding within you, and being able to face that and have conversations and bring it to the table without opinions, making judgments and all those things, because it really is just the opportunity to return it to love. And I know, and even for you, Michael, I know how committed you are to this work. And I keep saying this since I've met you, that God granted you as the human to bring in this information to the plane. That tells me of your commitment and your willingness for truth. And if there's anything within you that needs to be brought to healing, it will be found within you because you're so committed.
Absolutely.
Yes, and I hold that same truth for Tim, because I know how much he's committed to your work that you've brought into this field, and he will find whatever is hidden in his, and that will be brought to truth. And we get to, I feel fortunate because I feel I get to hold space for that without judging anything, just recognizing. And if there's energetic patterns I see, without opinions and making that it's this or it's that, it's accepting what is, being right here. This is what's up right now, and what is this bringing up for me? And I think I even said I feel very protective over you. I have since I met you. I don't know what, if it's past lives, but extremely protective over you. And I'm always watching, and I've got you in this bubble. So I have to look at that. What's that about? And Dr. Tim, even between you and Dr. Tim, there was an essence of wanting to see you guys come into harmony. Really a deep driving need, almost going to feel like a need to see that come together. So I have to look at what that's about. And then also I feel allegiance to you. And then if I go in, that is a little one, but then if I follow you, then am I being not committed to you if I go and also follow Dr. Tim?
Trust, Ruka.
Yeah, I know, all of those things, right? So, my arm just fell off. That's interesting. My arm just fell off the handle there. Yeah, what does that mean? That means something, by the way. I'll have to sit with that one, because that completely fell off the handle there, off my armrest. But yeah, it's just those little patterns. Those thoughts are coming forward. And I do trust Ruka, and I trust you, and I trust Tim. Yep. And so what's happening, God's got us all. We just got to do our healing.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I value you so much. I value what you bring and your commitment to do the work, and even what you said about, your commitment since Tim resigned. And maybe you want to say that again, because you committed to write a document. Was that,
It's something I'm working on. And actually I dropped Tim a text this morning simply saying, quote, "I'm here for you and with you, extending love in your direction." And, one of the pieces of the puzzle that, I'm still working on understanding and working through, you'll hear me say it in the codependence intensive, is that it is a challenge that when you're put into someone's power person file, to get out of it, it's big. And I don't yet have the tools. That's something I've worked on for a long time, in putting the whole power person dynamic together. And as I made the commitment the first day that I heard that was happening with Dr. Tim, that I'm working on that document on an ongoing basis. And I feel like it would be gossip for me to talk about anything about Tim without Tim being part of the conversation. We've, in the past, in our shows, we've defined gossip as that. And so I choose not to go there, except to say that I realize fully that's where I am with Dr. Tim. And that's okay. I have put forward everything that I can put forward over a significant period of time to change that dynamic, but it's not in my control. And so I'm staying centered, doing my work, and holding the space. You know, what happens in the world is whatever any of us holds in dissociation is going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. So I hold the space for whatever needs to be healed
Yeah.
for everyone involved.
Yeah, I agree. And even when we were at the workshop and you and I had a chance to take and I did the prayer, you know, the Ruka is amazing because all that's not love has to be brought to the surface for it to be revealed. And if we root it in the trust and the current of love, which divine love is the only thing that's real, and we can hold that and show up, just like I said, in my experience, having to face my own cognitive dissonance in that moment. And I, in my own experience, know how difficult that was. My non-being mind was really front and center because it collapses every pattern that you've held in your mental constructs once you face it. And your identity starts, you know, exactly what Susan said, your identity, you're dying to the false self, everything you thought you were. And then you're unraveling all these constructs that made you up. And we got to face those moment by moment. It's, yeah. And I really trust, and I know this community, this beautiful soul family is going to be better for this experience because it is going to release all that was not love.
I trust that 100%.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, I'm walking with you on that. I know that to be true. So can we all just walk in our own healing and face what's up for us through this moments, and also being able to hold, and even what we did in the meditation last night, sending the love to you, the embrace you fully in my love, which I do, and also Tim in my love, and everything that needs to be cleared, let it be so. Yeah, and you have my commitment to do that. Like that, I do that every day. I hold both of you in my bubble.
Returned, accepted.
Yeah. And Tim as well.
Susan, you were going to say, Susan B, you were going to say something there?
Yeah, I'm right on board with all this. I think the thing is, yes, the only choice we have is to choose love over and over again and to allow things to be as they are and observe them and not make judgments. I'm having trouble doing wake-up sheets because I don't really have words. It's mostly just heart, just feelings. So I couldn't even tell you exactly what they are.
So maybe this is the invitation. You know, you've heard me speak of before that this Yeshua is giving us each a calling, and one of the skills that he's inviting us to develop is the ability to literally go into our own cellular structure, retrieve the neuropeptides, the thoughts that have reflected as feelings, and learn to decode those and touch into those. So I'd invite you to be right in the process you're in and breathe and ask just to be shown what's the next piece of work that needs to be done. And
right. Well, and of course, externally, there's plenty to be done. I feel as if Jeannie and I are on parallel tracks, and my little car doesn't have an engine, but hers does. And I've hitched my little whatever it is, little cart that's connected to her project. And I'm being kept very much engaged in the present by doing that project, which has been such a gift. Because it's solid. I feel as if both my feet are on the ground and my brain is engaged. And the rest of me is floating around saying, what the hell? What the hell? But I shouldn't even put it that way. But so
what the heaven?
What the heaven? Yeah. To allow things to be as they are. Thanks for your words, Susan. The community has become very important. And it's like my church. I know Michael you gun for churches, and I know I push against that.
No,
Because,
no. I don't gun for churches. I'll take exception to that. My
okay.
offering is I gun for a misuse of the tools and invite the healing of the misuse of the tools. There are, I used to do and I acknowledge them often. Still, I used to do once a year, I used to do a series in a place called John 23rd, a Catholic retreat center that were run by a nun and a priest who were just awesome about supporting people in their work. And there are many people, I listen to you describe how your daughter is doing that. And I'm 1,000% for that. But there has been so much fear and hostility that has abused people in the name of Yeshua's teachings. That's what I'm up for exposing and making sure people get clear on.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. So I was just saying that my community at church, I've been out for 2 weeks with this hip thing. I come back in, and I guess everybody should get a hip operation, because then you go back to where you've been missed, and everybody hugs you, and they're so glad to see you, and you think, what? They like me in here. Holy mackerel, I didn't know that. So, that's weird. Don't get a hip operation. You can get it some other way. Yeah.
So notice how cherished and honored you are. And you're the only one that doesn't do that for yourself. Well, you may not be the only one, but you're the primary one.
There are a lot of us. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, thank you for letting me bring this up.
Oh, I'm delighted. Here we are. I will invite everyone, to make sure that when you think about anything going on with situations in your own family system, your own home, your own life, situations going on with this community, that you keep in mind the principles, that you don't get into personalities, mine or anybody else's, that you stay with the principles. And one of the things, there was quite a, should I say, in the resignation show that Tim did, there was quite a litany of my sins. And I'll offer that when you put that in the context of what was physiologically acknowledged Dr. Tim had going on, my offering is, again, I'm going to leave the conversation unless Tim chooses to participate. I invite everybody to recognize that when one is, for instance, having symptoms like a crushing migraine headache and having symptoms like can't breathe and head shaking and such, that one's physiology is inviting one to go inside and look at what they need to deal with, and to put what one needs to deal with into a conversation about somebody else is our core definition of denial. And that denial leads to dissociation. And I recognize when I listen to that resignation show, and it's interesting, we have technology so we can check up on numbers and things, but I did go back and re-listen a couple of times, and I noticed that in the first 30 minutes I got mentioned my name was used 43 times. In the context of the admission of a crushing migraine. And look at our definition of denial and dissociation. When I think or speak as though somebody outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me. In one of the shows, Susan Fluick very accurately hit the nail right on the head. This is a power person dynamic. And, an invitation to use the tools. It's interesting, my take is that the reason for this show, the reason I created this show 15 years ago, was to create a space where people could ask for support and ask for guidance and ask for the use. If you listen to that resignation show, it almost gets turned around to where inviting somebody to use a tool is attacking them. And that's not what it is. It's an invitation to use a tool. And so we just invite you to remember the principles, and each of us, and I'm including myself, to take responsibility for keeping love conscious, active, and present throughout whatever moves in any of us. And, Dr. Tim said it very powerfully and very well in that resignation show, is to look at how powerful the tools are when you use them.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I heard another voice.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
was
know
my
what it was.
voice. I'm just wondering, because I know it was 11:01, but I'd love to, if you're willing, just to end the show with a prayer, just in being able to hold the container of love. And can I just hold
Absolutely.
a little prayer? Is that okay with everybody? And so much was said, which thank you so much for bringing it forward, because it's still in the field. And so we're just going to, in our beautiful container here, coming into the current of Ruka. We're just going to breathe in right at the heart space. That's the emanation, and then the breath coming in and out. And in yesterday's call, I had imagined breathing in, and the breath is going both up and down, up to the soul star, or up to the central sun, and down to Mother Earth as you breathe in. And then breathing out is contracting back into the heart. As we breathe in, we're going to be sending that energy to Dr. Tim. It's that love, the pure love that he is. Holding Michael in that, so we can retire power person dynamics, the personalities. Just breathing out. Just knowing, and the commitment to the work of Michael to find the truth of what's being revealed, and the commitment by Tim to find the truth. Letting Ruka lead this process. Just imagine in the frequency of divine love that both of these beautiful beings, and the bridge between their hearts, as electricity going from one heart to the other between Tim and Dr. Ryce, that love flows, and they both get to perceive themselves in the other. And when they look at each other, they see themselves. And that no part of self is left behind. And in the own timing, that denial and dissociation to be revealed. We can only see what we can see when we're ready, and we afford each other the compassion to find it. And we gently and graciously hold the mirror up, believing that each will find the truth within.
And turn it over to the breath.
Turn it over to the breath, and we bring both Tim and Michael into our hearts, because we are all one in the soul family of this one global consciousness. And knowing we are all here in service to God, divine will, and we're all here for in service to humanity's evolution, and we must face all that is not pure within us. And we make room for all of our invitations for all of us to exist. And I just want to say that all of Dr. Ryce is invited to exist in my presence. The parts of him that are yet unseen, I will hold in love and compassion, and reflect to him that all of him gets to be seen. And I offer that same invitation to Dr. Tim, that all of him is invited in my presence. And each of you, just bring it back to the heart, just wiggling your hands, fingers, and your toes. And may we all go forward, and every time the words of Dr. Tim or Dr. Ryce enter onto our lips, all we perceive is divine love. So it is. Amen, amen, amen.
I'm breathing fully with you on that. And it is 5 minutes after, 6 minutes after. However, I'm in no hurry. If anyone has any other thoughts, anything else to share, anything to bring up, we can, fortunately, we're not limited now with our time since we're on Zoom. So if anyone has any other thoughts, please bring them forward. Sally?
I have a thought. I want to thank Susan for that prayer. That was absolutely beautiful. And I particularly resonated so strongly with the part of when we look at the other, may we see ourselves, that the oneness of our truth. And I think the only thing I want to share is, as I thank you and Dr. Tim and all on this call and all on other calls that do this work, for the demonstration that we are for one another. As we go through our humanness and keep growing and growing. I'm just astounded by the power of the demonstration. And like Susan said so beautifully well, I also really hold space for the good to come forward. And that's all I wanted to say about that. Love for everyone being here and thankful for your presence and your breath.
Breathing with you, Sally. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Any thoughts? Questions, answers, ideas? Well, holding the space for every mind, heart, and being on planet Earth.